I'm Laura, a potter and maker living in the Scottish borders, and this is my studio. I thought I would bring you along for some making days and hanging out with Penny the Pupper. Life has been absolutely ludicrous recently, partly because it's school holidays, but just because life has been mad. And I kept I kept losing my notebook, and I have somehow ended up with 1, 2, 3 scraps of paper or 5 notebooks on the go, which is just nonsense. Um, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time while I eat my toast, which I burnt, but that's life. Sometimes you get burnt toast. Um, sorting this nonsense out because they've all just got like a few pages of stuff that I actually need out of them in one place. Um, and then obviously this silliness. So the notebook I actually use, which is my full time notebook, is my handbook for the recently deceased, which I love, because it's really cool. But it's also a really nice notebook. And it's got a little pouch in the back for me to put stuff in. But it's nice colour paper. It's just a nice notebook. It's lined. Um, they don't do it dotted, and I wish they did because then I could. My sketches wouldn't look as mad in here when you sketch on line paper. It's not ideal, but they're normally just mapping stuff out, so it's not the end of the world. But yes, it would be nice to get all this in there so that I can go back to just having one notebook that I take with me places. Um, because I find my brain goes all the time. Um, and I often will be like, oh, that's a really good idea. I'd love to make something like that. Or, oh, that's a really good glaze. I need to remember that. And you see stuff online all the time and all this. My brain's constantly, ooh. Um, so I like to have a notebook with me that I can like put stuff in, get information down, because then I'll forget it and then I'll be thinking about it like 2 days later and I'll be really annoyed that I can't remember the thought that I had had. So, notebook. So I'm going to do that for a bit, and then handling. I've got mugs that need handled, I've got stuff that needs to go in the kiln, and then I've got to do some throwing, and I need to do a bit of a tidy up. So I think the first thing I'll do is load the kiln and see how much I need to fill, because it's pointless putting a half kiln on. You want to fill the kiln properly. So I will have a look and see what else I need to put in there, and then I can get that out for glazing. I have some stuff that kind of just sits, that is always sort of waiting to be glazed. So I'll do that first, then I'll tidy up a bit, then I'll do the glazing if I need to do glazing. I'm kind of hoping I don't need to do glazing, but we'll see. And then I'll handle mugs, then we'll do some throwing. And then once we've made a full mess of ourselves, we'll go home. Sounds like a plan. Kiln loading. The kiln shelf has been destroyed multiple times by other potters from doing workshops and stuff like that. So that is ceramic fibre paper that sits underneath each piece, like so. Stops them sticking to the kiln shelf, also stops anything on the kiln shelf getting on them. I do need to grind the kiln shelf and clean them. I have some new ones on the way. So I'll grind it and it'll be a spare, or like a workshop specific one. So when it's stuff that people have made and it might be runny glazes and stuff like that, I can use it to help sort of keep the kiln shelves safe, because we've had, from workshops and stuff like that, we've had a few kiln shelves be destroyed. So yeah, right, loading. Kiln's loaded. I don't need to do any glazing because it's full. It's programmed, so I'll set it just before I leave, which means I'm going to do some tidying because this is a mess. And then we're going to do, I've got throwing and hand building to do. So I might do the handling and hand building, and then we'll do throwing just before we go.
Spacey, I've been lost inside a daydream. These hopes of mine could really break me, or catch me by surprise. Faces, sun-kissed skin inside a basement.
You can keep Penny company.
Just trying to make it before the next sunrise. So who's that knocking at your door? Feels like we've been here before. 'Cause I've been set back, broke down, and I'm not wearing out.
Can you guys just keep an eye on Penny, please, while I'm sweeping? So we've tidied. It looks much better. Hold on, I'll let you see. I just feel like, oh, Penny's fighting with her apple again. I had no idea where we were. Penny disturbed me, and then all thoughts went out of my head because Penny was being cute. Tidied. I have tidied. So I don't know if you can sort of see. We've put stuff away. We've swept the floors. Much tidier than it was. Over there. So that's my head. That's my head. Over there's tidier. Over here's tidier. And we could just get on now. I feel much better when the place is tidy. It's taken nearly a whole day, which is ridiculous. I did no stuff too. So under here, I have, hold on, let me, an itchy leg, but I have some mugs that are leather hard, that need their bottoms dealt with and handled. And because of the kind of mugs they are, got the hiccups now, I tend not to turn the bases of them. I just smooth them off. I turn the bases of my other mugs, but these ones, I tend to just leave them And then this one is for, which I think I will turn the base of this one. That's its mark from being pulled off the wheel. This is for a commission, a wedding gift, a husband to a wife, and he's ordered a custom bookcase mug. I don't have any bookcase mugs to show you what I mean. Oh, I do. It's just badly glazed. Okay. So we were doing a glaze experiment on this one because the bookcase was a bit knackered. And then I forgot to glaze the rest of the mug, which was ridiculous. But this is what I mean by bookcase mug. So, hold on, let me get my head out of the picture. Focus on the mug. It's a mug, and there is a bookcase on it, and there is little things on the bookcase. Little candles, bowls, cups, books, a little bird skull at the top, a little chest, bottles, all sorts of things. That's a little pestle and mortar. But the glazing is very dark, which is kind of cool, but not quite what I was going for. And then, as you can see here, this is unglazed. So the shiny stuff is where I remembered to put a clear coat on it. I was meant to clear coat the rest of the mug and did not. So the mug's unglazed, inside and out, which is excellent. So I am going to attempt a reglaze where I put clear coat on the outside, and we'll see if it works. And we'll see how we feel about it after that. But yeah, so that's a bookcase mug. So that's what this is a commission for. So I'm going to handle it and then bag it and leave it, and I'm going to do the commission next week. Because I want to do a bit of sketching for it, I think. So yeah, so that's just pretend that doesn't exist. And then I will work on handling these. When I make handles, you can pull them. There's lots of different ways. You can pull them, you can extrude them. I tend to kind of faux pull mine. I don't like pulling handles because I get really gross and messy whenever I try and do it. And I know that if I practice a little bit, I will get better at it. And I won't find it gross and messy because I won't make as much mess. But I find it just as good to fake pull them, which means I roll a coil and I flatten one side of it and then I smooth off the top and then I shape them. It also means I can work with the clay slightly firmer so that I can attach them at a slightly firmer stage. But also then they just hold their shape. I don't need to kind of dry them upside down or anything like that. They will just hold their shape and dry. Which if I used slightly firmer clay and was pulling them, then it would be the same. But you know, you find excuses to do things the way that you do them. And this is my excuse. I don't like getting wet elbows. Maybe that's something we can do together. Learn how to pour them. So we'll give them a squirt. This isn't actually Dettol. It is just really weak. I just use an empty bottle because it's a really wide, good squirter. But I use just a little bit of Dettol or the equivalent. If I want it smelling nice, I'll maybe use Zaflora. But antibacterial disinfectant, just put a tinsy bit in, not bleach because that dries out my hands. And I wouldn't advise you just squirting diluted bleach all around the place. But yeah, so I use a little bit of antibacterial stuff just to stop things getting mouldy. They still do a little bit if they get left for too long, especially if I I use a wear board, so you can see over here, like the shelves. Sorry, try and get out of the way. The shelves come off the shelf thing holders. What are they called? Brackets. The shelves come off the shelf brackets. Wow. I need to sleep. The shelves go off the shelf brackets, and I use them as a wear board, so I'll put them on stools next to me when I'm throwing, which you'll see later when I throw. But if I sort of, so say I was throwing today and then I know I'm not going to be in for 3 days, but the kiln's going to be on, they'll dry out too much for me to then be able to turn and handle them, and it's a whole big faff and it's not what you want. So I would wrap them, and I'd wrap the whole shelf with some sort of plastic, just thin stuff, but that just helps keep the moisture in and stop it evaporating. The problem with doing that is the wood that the shelves are made out of, because they're not coated in anything, so that the clay, as it dries, doesn't stick as much, and will just pop off. It can go a bit gross and get a bit mouldy, which is why we put the antibacterial in, to try and prevent that a little bit. If I do it like I've done these, where there's plastic underneath, focus. I need to take it off. Fancy mode. Plastic underneath, put them on, cover them over. They stay moister, that's not a nice word. They stay wetter, damper, there we go. They stay damper if you've got 2 layers of plastic. So if they're sat on plastic and then covered by plastic, they'll stay damper for longer. Also, if your clay gets a little too dry and you need to put handles on it and stuff, you can kind of reinvigorate them and get them damp again by completely sealing them in plastic. You can use like a damp box as well, which is plaster of Paris at the bottom, or potter's plaster if you want to be fancy, at the bottom. Let it dry, and a plastic box where the lid will like clip on. I don't have any in here, but where the lid will clip on, it doesn't need to be completely airtight, so you don't need to use like food grade tubs, just some of the lid will clip on and keep it a bit dry, keep the atmosphere a little bit moist, damp. And then let your plaster dry, and then once it's dry and set, you can add some disinfectant and some water to it so that it stays wet, and it'll hold the moisture. And then when you put your pots in and give them a squirt and clip the lid on, it's a really nice damp atmosphere, and your pots will soak up some of that and they'll become damp again. I'm trying not to say the M word. Moist. Anyway, so I start by, this is pre-wedged. I had balled it up to throw with it, and then I decided I was throwing with the other colour clay. So this will dry this colour, this like almost white. It's called Draycott White, and it's super soft and lovely to throw with. Really, I'd not used it before, and someone suggested it as a white clay that isn't like an earthenware, it's like porcelain white, at stoneware. Once you've fired it, after the bisque fire, it does cream up a little bit, but kind of gives you that old page in a book sort of colour, which I really like for the sort of stuff I make. Anyway, what we do? Right, that's me finished. Everything has been handled. Yeah, all handled, all done and looking lovely, all smooth bummed. So yeah, the sun has started to set and it has got cold, so we are going to bail now. I'm gonna head home and feed the pupper. The pheasants are back. They make such a weird noise. No, he stopped. They keep coming and pinching all the. Well, I mean, they are birds, so they can eat the bird food. It's fine. But the bird feeders are meant to be for the little tiny birds, and the pheasant sits on the wall and just trashes the spot and nicks all the feed for the little baby birds. Anyway, I'm cold, so I'm gonna go home. I thank you for watching. If you've watched all the way to the end, that is very lovely. I hope you enjoyed seeing studio stuff and some making and some tidying. Thank you for monitoring the pupper. And if you want to see more stuff in the studio stuff, we're calling it, I don't know. You want to see more making stuff like that, subscribe and follow along. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Right, I'm gonna go get warm. I hope you've had a lovely week, and I hope you have another lovely week. And I'll see you soon. Bye.